Good evening, everybody. Today, let us talk about biochemistry. Today is the first lecture. My name is Sirong Raiping. I'm an assistant professor, Department of Botany, Modern College, Imphal East, Manipur, India. So, today we are going to talk about uh, water as a universal solvent. Welcome to class BSc Botany Honors 6th semester. Before we go to the main topic, let us see what is cell. Cell is a unit of biological activities delimited by semi-permeable membrane in and capable of self-reproduction in a medium of other living substance or system. So this is given by A.G. Lowy and P. Sakovich in 1963. Cell, when you see a plant and then cut the plant section, and that small section is observed under a microscope, and under that microscope you will observe so many compartments, and that compartment is what we call cell. Cell is a structural and functional unit of life. That one unit can function, have a structure, and have certain function. So one you as a unit together form a unit. That is what we call cell. So cell is a structural and functional unit of life. Now you see the cell from a three-dimension point of view, from different direction. So now cell, and inside the cell, if you observe, then there are smaller compartment where we call organelles. In case of human, there are different organs in your human system, and that every that unit is what we call organs. And now here under the cell, there are small another more compartment that is called what we call organelles. So organelles is a smaller organs or smaller part of this cell functioning a definite function, together functioning a function. So that is what we call cell. Cell organelles. Now, if you see the cell organelles, every part of the cell in the basic structure is made of some compound, and that compound is what chemical compound is all about. Now, here, let us see the outermost layer of the cell. That is in plant, that is the plant cell. So plant cell is the outer covering of that cell, and it gives the structure of the cell. And that plant cell, if you see, then there is a cluster or bundle of fiber which form the structure of the cell wall. And that fiber, if you broke down into a smaller unit, and that a unit of fiber, if you observe under this more minutely, then you can see cellulose. And cellulose is a molecule, macromolecules, or a repeating molecule polysaccharide, which is made of many glucose unit. So many glucose unit, thousands and 10,000s and millions form the unit, and that unit is what we call this cellulose. And that cellulose, a small thread, and that intertwine to form a bigger fiber, and that fiber comes together in the form of bundles and form the structure of the cell wall. So that is, if any part of our living system is broken down at the basic level, is the these biomolecules, the macromolecules, the molecule which form up the living things. For example, if you take an example of your cloth, then this cloth is made of this different cotton, the lint, and that lint link up together, form threads, and that threads make weave into clothes, and that clothes stitch into your comfortable the cloth which you wear. So that is how things from smaller unit forms a bigger structure. So in that same way, if you come down to our living system, the basic thing is the chemical, and that chemical make up our living system, and that is how an individual is formed through chemicals. So that chemicals which is there in a very minute level, which is in the form of which can have a function and which can uh, have a unit structure, that is what we call cell, and many cells make up our human system, or many cells make a multicellular organisms, and many cells make a whole structure of a plant. So that is how this macromolecules are inter uh, uh, make building up a living system. Now, if you talk about biochemistry, we are mainly going to deal with some macromolecules like proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acid. So in biochemistry, we are not going to talk the whole chemistry and whole biology, but those chemicals which are related with living things, living substances, the macromolecules which we are going to talk about, that those are the part of the molecule which we deal in biochemistry. So macromolecules, which I have displayed here in the in the slide, these are some of the molecules that we are going to discuss. Now, yes, we said we will talk mainly of those macromolecules, but now we are going to study something of water. Water as a universal solvent. Yes, most of the living things, almost all the living things are made up of this major constituent is the water. The water in any kind of living things, water is the universal solvent. That means in water things are dissolving, in water things are happening. So all inside the cell, if you're talking about the cell is filled with water, if you're talking about the movement of this molecule to that molecule, water is involved. So water is dissolving, and water is the universal solvent in the living system, and water is also considered as a universal solvent. Water, why water is a universal solvent? Now you say you take sugar, then sugar can be dissolved in water. You take this in on that you put this tea leaf, it also dissolve on water. You put milk, it is also miscible in water. So that means water can contain a lot of this solute and then dissolve and miscible in that water. So that is why universal solvent. But of course, some substances are not able to dissolve in water, but some of the author, they have already started using the word universal solvent in many books. So that is why water is considered as a universal solvent. Now, water has the ability to form hydrogen bonds. Now let us ask us a question: why water is a universal solvent? So let us see from a chemical perspective why it is so. Now, if you see water molecule is made up of two atoms. One is oxygen and another is hydrogen. Oxygen and hydrogen makes up water. Oxygen atom and hydrogen atom together makes water. So here, if you see oxygen, oxygen is a bigger atom than hydrogen. And hydrogen has more electronegativity than oxygen has higher electronegativity than hydrogen. So oxygen has slightly negative, hydrogen is slightly positive. So slightly positive and slightly negative in water molecule. So in water molecule, it is not charged, but a slight charge is there. If a slight charge is there, so these slight charges among water molecules of one water molecules to another molecules, this oxygen has a negative charge and it is moving towards hydrogen, which has having positive charge. In this way, the slight positive and slight negative, they are attracted, and then it's not a strong bond either. That is what we call hydrogen bond, and that is how this water molecule can move up and down, but they can't separate each other, and that is how water is there as a liquid. So that water has a slight positive, slight negative, and it is a liquid. Now we talk about hydrogen bond, and hydrogen bond is related with electronegativity. Electronegativity means the degree to which an element tends to gain electron and form negative ion in chemical reaction. So that is what we call electronegativity. You see, oxygen atom is made of 8 electrons and 8 protons. So 8 protons is in the center, 8 electron is revolving around the oxygen, uh, nucleus of that oxygen. So these electrons are pulled towards this nucleus by the proton, but since the number of electron is more, some of the electrons tend to move towards the peripheral. That is how a slight negative is induced because of this uh, uh, pulling towards this nucleus and of the protons which is there in the nucleus, and then the electron which is there in the peripheral. So this is how electronegative is slight negative, or things happen. Now here you see the atoms, how electrons are revolving around this nucleus. So when in our former classes, we know that electrons are revolving around the nucleus. But we tend to think, if we see the Bohr structure, then we tend to think that it is in 2 dimension. But here, since here, when we see to this diagram, then we know that the electrons are moving in this direction, in this direction, in this direction. So x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. In all the axes, the electrons are moving, but spherically towards the nucleus of that atom. So this is the movement of electrons in the of the atoms revolving around the nucleus. Now let us see 3 substances that dissolve in water. The first one is oils. Oil is not soluble in water, insoluble in water. You know why? Oil does not dissolve in water because oil is a non-polar substance. So when oil is a non-polar substance, so like dissolve like. So this is something which does not like with water, which is not like with what, which does not like water, which is not like water. So there is no polar nature here, non-polar substance. So it doesn't dissolve with water. It is immiscible with water. And second, sugar. Sugar is a polar substance. Sugar is a carbohydrate. Is made of saccharides. Unit of saccharide, 2 units of saccharides, fructose and glucose. And then this, when we say carbohydrate, is compound of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So it has a slight charges. So that is what we call this polar. So this sugar dissolve in water. And a third example, that is the salt. Salt is what? What we understand about salt is that salt is formed by 2 radicals. One is acid radical, another is basic radical. So these acid radical and basic radical form a neutral compound called salt. When it dissolves in water, these 2 radical, acid and this base, they dissociate and form charges. And these positive charges, that is sodium, it moves towards the this water, where towards the in water molecule towards the oxygen side, where there is a slight negative. And chlorine the other side, the chlorine will move towards the hydrogen ion. In this way, salt, that is a compound having radicals, will also dissolve in water. So these three things, uh, out of these three things, only two things are dissolving in water. So those having polar substance and those having radical in the molecules, salts. When I say salt, so these will dissolve in water. This is how this substance dissolve in water. So for today, I want to give an assignment to all of you. Name 10 substances that are miscible with water, and also give the reason why they are miscible or soluble in water. Thank you so much for kindly listening. We will see in the next class.